For a question that looks so short, this is actually a very complex and difficult question. In order to solve it, we need to set both of these functions equal to each other and then solve for x. Sounds simple, right? But you'll see it is not at all. So 2 multiplied by ln of x minus 1, or ln of x, is equal to ln of x plus 6. Okay, so the first thing we're going to want to do is get the natural log terms on the same side of the equation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move them over to the the left-hand side. And I'm going to do that by subtracting ln of x plus 6 from both sides. And then I'm going to move the 1 over to the right-hand side by adding 1, like that. So now it'll be equal to positive 1. Now the next thing I'm going to do, I know there is a law with natural logs or regular logarithms that when we are subtracting two terms like this, we can write it as a quotient. It would be the natural log of x over x plus 6. But first we need to deal with this 2. And in order to deal with it, we're going to move it using one of our logarithm laws. And we're going to move it to become the exponent of x. So this we can rewrite as ln of x squared minus ln of x plus 6. Great. So with that done, now we can use that law to rewrite the natural log here to be the natural log of x squared over x plus 6. And we're able to do that because the two terms are being subtracted. Now, because we're taking the natural log here, what we're going to do is we're going to rewrite this in exponential form. Remember, because it's the natural log, there's a little base of e here. So rewriting this, we would get e to the power of 1 is equal to x squared over x plus 6. Now our next strategy is to try to manipulate this into the form of a quadratic equation. And I'm going to do that first by multiplying both sides by x plus 6. And that's going to cause those two to cancel out. And if I distribute e into the brackets here, we would get e multiplied by x plus 6e is equal to what's left on the right-hand side, which would just be x squared. Now we want to try to move everything over to one side of the equation, and I'm going to do that by subtracting ex and subtracting 6e, so that we'd be just left with 0 on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, we'll have x squared minus ex minus 6e. Now remember, e represents a constant, so this is our we do have a constant term here at the end. So this is now in the form of a quadratic equation where a equals 1, b equals negative e, that's b, a has a value of 1, and c has a value of negative 6e. So we're going to be using the quadratic formula here to help us solve for x. See what I mean about this being a pretty involved question? It's crazy. I really don't have much room. Okay, let's go over here. Okay, so using the quadratic formula, negative b would be, because b is actually already negative, it would be positive. So negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared. So that would be negative e squared minus 4 times our a term of 1 times c, which is negative 6e, all over 2 times a, which is 1. Wow, this is a pretty difficult equation. So you're very carefully inputting this into your calculator. My advice would be to start by simplifying what's inside the radical. And what you should get is the square root of 72.6278, if we round it. And that's over 2. And in the end, hopefully, you get the same answer as me, which is 5.62 if we're rounding it. And I got that by adding here. You'll notice that if you try subtracting, you end up getting a negative answer. And if x was negative, you'd get an error, right? You can't take the natural log of a negative number. So you ignore that. And 5.62, therefore, is the only real answer. So that's option number 3. So pretty intense question, but I hope you're able to follow along and that made sense for you. That's all for this video. Thanks for visiting JD's Preparation.